Hello there, everybody. I hope you've all had a wonderful work week. So do you have a standard for your marketing measurement and your data? Wait a minute, what does that even mean? Well, according to new research reports by software provider Claravine and research provider Advertiser Perceptions, well, what it means is that you've got a standard method for naming data, storing data, tracking data all across your organization, whether that's shared taxonomies for content or marketing data, measurement data, even tracking codes for your advertisements. So, you've got all that? Well, according to the research, you probably don't. But apparently, instead, 95% of you agree that having that, well, it's a must to moving forward to show ROI for your advertising and marketing. So, yeah, we don't have it. We don't really know what it is, but definitely, where can we get some, please? It's interesting that when you see research like this that features marketers confidently noting that they need to establish something that they clearly have had a tremendously difficult time even understanding, that's a little fascinating. In fact, according to the research, 98% of agencies and 81% of client marketers, basically everybody, agree that their company will fall behind competitors or lose market share over time without a data standards practice. That sounds like a lot. But then weirdly, the research also finds that these same advertisers report an average increase of 33% in return on investment that are or could be seen from implementing data standard strategies. But wait a minute, if they don't have any standards, how can they be so confident in the data of the ROI that they're going to get from, actually deploying them? What are they basing that what standard are they basing that number on? Where do advertisers and marketers stand on standards and getting to agreement on all these names of data and tagging and codes and metrics? Well, let's put it down and define it, shall we? Let's put a standard to the standards. This is a few minutes of what's new in marketing that might help you lead your business's standard strategy. Let's roll. Hello, everybody. Robert Rose here with What's New in Marketing. It is about what's new in marketing, but most importantly, it's something important in marketing that we think may help you become a better leader. And if we can help you or your team with content marketing services, including custom training, consultation, ongoing implementation of your content program, get on over to contentmarketinginstitute.com, fill out that form, and let's talk about what your needs are. So when we talk to marketers in or workshops, our training, our consulting, we talk a lot about setting standards, the definitions of everything that crosses the marketing and content operation threshold. Well, a new research report is just out this week from data standards software provider Claravine and the research firm Advertiser Perceptions, and they covered the current state of data standards when it comes to marketing and advertising. The research looked at both the importance of setting standards as well as some of the challenges that companies have in actually setting them. Certainly, there were a few of their findings that were truly fascinating, if not kind of a bit obvious. For example, the research found that advertisers that have already implemented a data standard strategy were significantly more likely to have a strong understanding of data standards and what they mean than those who have yet to implement a strategy, 34% versus 10%. That makes sense, right? If we haven't implemented yet, there's a good chance that we don't really understand it yet. But then I paused. Wait a minute. That 34% stands out. Does that mean that 66% of those who have implemented a data standard strategy don't have a strong understanding of the practice? Interesting. The research doesn't clarify that exact number, but it almost certainly indicates that there are teams out there implementing standards that don't have a strong understanding of what they even are. But regardless of whether they understand it or not, apparently marketers are pretty confident that having a data standards, well, it'll improve things. The research points to a 33% return on investment that marketers that can or will be seen after they implement a data standard strategy. Those numbers were even higher across categories such as privacy compliance, brand safety, and just under 33% for categories such as consumer experience, marketing campaigns, and productivity. And those numbers are all apparently up relative to where they were last year when the company performed this same exact study. It's clear, they say, that having data standards in marketing and advertising is an important thing. And that shouldn't come as a shock to anybody coming from these two companies. One other quick finding that's buried in the research, but truly fascinating to me, is that the research unsurprisingly concluded that having confidence and greater visibility into performance is a key benefit of having data standards. Especially, they conclude, because, and here's the king, because roughly 23% of the time, the wrong ad creative is served to the wrong consumer. Let me say that again. According to these marketers, 23% of the time, the wrong ad creative is served to the wrong consumer. But is that just the advertiser's perception, or is that an estimate? Or is it that the correct number that the advertisers have is wrong? In other words, it's the advertiser's fault for not having or having faulty data standards on their categorizations. Or is it the fault of the advertising platform for basically just not knowing how to serve the ad to the right categories that either weren't there or were incorrectly interpreted? I mean, these ad platforms themselves often don't have the data standards by which to manage their various advertising inventory, so it doesn't matter how good we are. If they're bad at it, then, well, no good things are going to happen. It's not clear from the research where the sort of fault here lies, but there's your business case front and center for ensuring that you at least have a data standard in place for your advertising and marketing. But what's our take? Well, these results are fascinating, as I said, but not terribly surprising. I mean, one of the most common recommendations that we make in our content strategy consultations is that one of the easiest ways to get immediate ROI from developing a content strategy is simply setting a bit of content and communication standards for the company. This isn't something that's just a template that you can download. You have to come together as a marketing team, a function, and define it. For example, what's the definition of ebook in your organization? What's the definition of a white paper? What's the definition of a blog post? What's the standard name for things marketing does? Is it a campaign? Is it an initiative? Do you have both? What's the difference between a campaign and an initiative? That's the theme, right? What is a theme? Wait a minute. What's a content pillar? What's the standard name for your personas in various parts of your buyer's journey? All of these are things that we need to agree on as a standard way of doing things in our marketing strategy. Then we move on to measurement, of course. What's your standard definition of a lead, an opportunity? What counts as a download? What is a conversion? Is it any wonder that sometimes we feel that marketing can be so hard to measure? It's actually not that hard to measure. The hardest part of measurement is actually getting agreement on what the standard for the measurement will be. As Taiichi Ono, the creator of Toyota Production System, said decades ago, without standards, there can be no improvement. Or as I've asked my clients so many times, how will you know if you're successful if you haven't agreed on what the standard of success actually looks like? In an interesting twist, what I like most about this new research study is that it unintentionally illuminates that as marketers, our approach to developing standards has to meet the teams where they are. If we approach team-wide development of marketing, content, advertising, or data standards from an approach of bringing the external definitions in, we get instantly caught up in how they won't work for us, how we're different, how it doesn't really work for us, how this isn't, how we're unique, because we don't understand how these external things apply. But instead, if we sit down and do the work of collaborating, communicating, and giving our definitions to what we need to standardize to have a shared vision of objectives and goals, well, they might be different than how the world sees them, but they will be meaningful to us. Just remember, the whole point of setting any standard is to be able to improve on it. But in order to improve on anything, you first need to define what improvement means. In other words, you must define the standard or truth before accuracy means anything. Now, before you've got a standard of setting standards, that should be standard in your marketing. And that's a few minutes of what's new in marketing. Remember, it's your story. Set a standard and then tell it well. I'll see you next week.